I'm back. I'm going to flip through some of my photos, kind of highlight them. Some of these are been showed before, but you know, what the hell. This is one of my favorite ones. You can see the object shooting across the horizon like they usually do. And it's actually cutting a path into the fog as the objects. Bigger one, the smaller one up front. Kind of push the bow wake. And like this is one you'll see a lot in your sky. It has the little ion bleed off trails, the individual trails. That's a little cluster group of objects, and that will be pouring off like a waterfall as it moves along. You can see also the deep kind of blue in the background up top, and then the lighter towards the bottom. That is due to some objects being up there, space debris, whatever, planet, moon, basically creating a shadow. There's just an example collage, cutting through. You'll see the same thing over and over and over, just different times of the day, times of the year, different perspectives. Light will change, different objects will create different colors, but it's usually the same group of objects. Like here, you got the trail bleeding off, and clearly you got an object right here with the bow wake, and then there's another one in front of it. For some reason they come in twos a lot, but you'll see these kind of little bow wake type things with the trails, the feathery trails bleeding off of them. That's definitely a typical. And then this one was at night, really late at night, a couple years ago, 3 years ago. It almost was like the sky opened up a blast freezer, and it was so frigid cold. I couldn't even have stood out there if I wasn't in my hot tub. But I noticed this object basically pushing along, and you can clearly see it. It was just leaving this perfect little trail as it was slowly cutting across, in front of the moon, being illuminated. That was a pretty weird one that I actually felt the physical effects as it passed. The pressure, the cold. It almost looks like there's a dang cube up here too, if you see. Just kind of strange. Cubes are always up there when weird stuff are in the sky. Same thing cutting across the horizon. A lot of them cut across the horizon like this. You can see it. It's pushing through. I think the smaller one is up front. The bigger one's in the back. Come in twos. These ones are my favorite. Big mystery to me. This one was actually caught in a lightning storm during, I think, July or August a few years ago. I call them either the Ninja Turtle heads or wrinkle face objects. They kind of look the same. They're almost, I don't know if they're attracting the electricity or if they're amplifying it or feeding off of it or whatever the hell they're doing, but whenever they're out, there's usually a lot of energy in the atmosphere. They almost seem like they'll kind of control what's going on, like they're intelligent. It's kind of hard to explain, but a lot of times they'll be encased in like a cloud envelope, and sometimes they'll pop out for a brief moment. Another one cutting down. This one's cutting down at an angle. You can see its twin bleed off trails. It's got the little horizontal ripples as it's pushing in to the atmosphere, kind of like its little bow wake. The object, of course, will be a lot smaller than that, but this is kind of its cloud envelope, that kind of ionizes the gases around it as it gets close to our atmosphere, where it's more dense, with particulates and water vapor. Same thing, same kind of object. You notice it kind of looks like it has little wrinkles it'll always be shown like that if you can get it close. But it'll have two distinct trails, you know, a lot like a comet. One that's bleeding off from basically the Earth's atmosphere moving around. You know, it's ion trail getting caught in the flow of the Earth's rotation, going out one direction, and then you have the other trail, which is basically shooting off from the sun's direction. You know, so you got the sun basically blasting off a trail, and then you have our atmosphere pulling a trail. That's why you get the twin trails, just like a comet. You know, the sun, this was I think this was morning. There's an object over here, and the sun was about to rise or set. I can't remember. It was a while ago. Another one cutting across the sun. This is what you'll get. A little, you know, kind of like check mark. The object's right here, and it's pushing in front of the sun. You know, this will be a whole group of them. You know, I think there's probably one here, probably a couple up and around. Usually they come in cluster groups. Another example, cutting across, pinching the sun's flare, I guess you could call it. Dark sphere in the center. And again, you got two of them, leaving the trail, the wakes, pushing into the sun. That's a pretty good example. I like this one. This one's hard for people to grasp, but you look at this picture that Sam Hoffman, Montana Skywatcher's drawn, and he shows the moon, Ahtu's moon, kind of under it, and Ahtu behind it with the bleed off, you know, bleeding off between them. And you come down here to this picture I captured aiming straight up with my security camera back in 2021, and you can see this rainbow line right here that cuts across, and then it's dark blue, and it kind of separates, but you can see it continue up here. But when it gets down here into its bleed off, it basically refracts into a rainbow, and then you have this other sphere right here with all the ion bleed off coming off of it, exactly as he shows in his drawings. So you got Ahtu, the planet, behind it, the purple, deep blue kind of, you know, coloration back here in the sky, and then you got its white moon covered in ion bleed off directly under it, exactly like his picture. And then over here, these are other examples of Ahtu's moon. It's white moon getting caught by sky cams around the world, clear shots, unobstructed. Another example that he's drawn showing Ahtu with its white moon in front, and its kind of cluster group orbiting under it, you know, rounding about under it. And then you got Ahtu's moon up here, and I'll actually put in the video of this showing these group of asteroids basically orbiting in, coming in like this, and then basically hitting close to the atmosphere, in our atmosphere. I'm not exactly sure, but you can clearly see that they're creating these trails, this bleed off, as it pushes into our atmosphere, creating these trails, and it kind of slows down and just slowly starts to turn around itself back up as it's doing an orbit. These things clearly are not governed by gravity, and gravity is more of a localized effect, you know, being inside the atmosphere, you know, people, things like that. Not an expert on it, but these objects that I continually see do not display, you know, any kind of gravitational effects on the planet. You know, if that were true, like mainstream science says, it would rip us apart. You know, we would get sucked up into the sky as these things pass by. But clearly that's not how it works. You know, people need to wake up to that. It's an electric universe. Everything, planets at least, the macro world, follows electromagnetism, just like two magnets, you know, different polarities. They have long range attraction, so they'll get kind of attracted to each other when they're, you know, pretty far out, and then as they get closer, basically the magnetism takes effect and the two different poles repel each other. So they come in, get really close, and then slowly get deflected and repelled away. I've seen it time and time again. It's obvious to me. I'm not going to try to convince anybody else. You need to start recording your sky and watching your videos in time lapse, and you'll see it yourself. It's very easy to prove to yourself. It's one of those things that any one of us can actually go and prove to ourselves. We don't have to listen to any other, you know, nut job out there. We don't have to trust anybody else. We can trust ourselves, our eyes. Just get some security cameras, some cameras, record your sky 24/7, turn it into a time lapse, speed it up, watch it. You'll be amazed. There's a bigger picture of it. This is Ahtu's moon, showing the, you know, distinct differences as this was it coming in. So it's basically, it's passing somewhat close, but you can almost see its outline right here. And this is its telltale sign, is these little patchy clouds at the base of it. You know, a little spotty base cloud. So it's kind of far away here, and then this is when it's getting closer, kind of dipping into the atmosphere, leaving the trail. And then this one up here is basically its close pass, when it's like right above, and it just leaves this huge ion bleed off trail that'll stretch out and cover the entire sky, you know, for, I don't know, 10 to 40 minutes, something like that, usually around sunset, sometimes sunrises. They're somewhat predictable. And again, group of asteroids, cluster group, passing overhead, changing. You can see the red and, you know, the wakes, the ripples, that clearly something's up there disturbing the atmosphere. And then you got the green down here at the bottom, where everything, you know, comes together. That would be the cluster group right there, giving off the green. The red would be probably other objects or a planet that's above it, behind it. It's just how they work. Again, that's our moon. This was in the morning, 2020. This trail right here was stretching clear across the horizon. I actually watched it as it slowly started stretching out like this monstrous little trail. And then I started catching these objects inside them, you know, slowly floating along inside this. This is like its pathway, you know, that's full of objects that are, you know, orbiting around this larger planet that's up above, and they just pass by one after the other, get enveloped in this huge bleed off trail. It's quite interesting to watch. Again, one coming down into our atmosphere, leaving the bow wake. You got the perfect little sphere in the center with the little wrinkles, the ion bleed off. You're not going to see, you know, the physical object unless it rounds around into the sunlight and becomes illuminated. These things are usually coming from the other direction, and so you don't see the sun's light reflecting off their surface. That's actually pretty rare. I've captured it a few times, but what you see is their impression in our sky. So they'll look invisible to us, but you'll see the effects that they have on our atmosphere. The ion bleed off, the wakes, you know, all the atmospheric effects you'll see. Another one that I've inverted, I guess, to kind of show the object. You'll see something like this in the sky, you won't think nothing of it. It'll just look like any other weird cloud, chemtrails. But you look at it, you know, in a different spectrum or inverted, and you can clearly see, you know, there's an object in there, and that's its bow wake and its trail. Another one shooting across. You can actually see the objects right here, trails coming off of it. And these things move at the speed of clouds, so they're not shooting across the sky. They're moving really slow, so that's why most people don't have the patience and can't really comprehend what they're seeing. They just look up and see a weird cloud. But when you speed these things up on a time lapse, you can actually see that there are objects swooping by, leaving effects in the atmosphere. It just goes by slow, to our perspective as humans, that it's really hard to comprehend. You have to speed it up, step back, and a lot of times you're only looking at a partial section of a wake of a much larger planet passing by. And since all you can see from your spot on the ground is just a little, a big ripple going across, you can't see the big picture because you're not in space, or you don't have that wide eye view. Unless you live on a mountain, with an open view, then you'll notice it a little bit easier. This is one shooting across like that, and there's some objects in there. You can see right there. Perfect little circle. I got the bow wake as it's pushing through. One of those little fast flying dot craft always accompanying it. There's more objects that are illuminated in the front of this thing. There's a close up. You got these little black dot craft that are always zipping around. More examples of these objects coming across the horizon. You'll see the illumination when they get close to the horizon, kind of the trail that's bleeding off, and they'll have these kind of straight lines that are coming off the object that's at the front. So these objects will be up right here, objects right here. You got its, this one right here was at sunset, so everything's illuminated, basically inflamed, making it look all fiery. This was in the morning, same kind of thing, got that fiery look. This one was, I think this was at night or first thing in the morning. You can see the illumination. The trails will always be illuminated. Again, illuminated with the trails. This one you can see pretty clearly. There's an illuminated object. It's got two trails coming off the top and the bottom of it as it's breaking through the clouds, pushing through. A nighttime one passing overhead. You got the illumination close to the horizon. Different one. Same thing. I think this was like a day or two later, passing over the same spot, illuminated. Then you got basically little debris fields, cluster groups. You can actually see little dark spots breaking in these waves, wakes. It's just like water. So you can kind of imagine this being a form of water, and this being like little, debris, golf balls or baseballs or whatever floats, getting tumbled in these wakes. And they'll all be trailing, being pulled behind a larger object up front. You can see the wakes rippling out over here. Same thing. Little chunky objects caught inside the wakes as they spin and get tumbled. Again, dark kind of clusters. There's another example. These little debris fields on little wakes. You got the rainbow clouds, from the refraction of all the dust particles and all the crap that comes with them. You zoom in really close, you'll see these little orb objects that are floating around up there. Either deflecting them, observing them, obfuscating them. I don't know, but they're always up there with when these things pass. Always. There's some more. There's the obvious debris fields. You'll have some chunks right here cutting through. Everything's getting tumbled. That's why you got these rows. These are like wakes, ripples, large ripples coming off of a much larger object higher up above as it passes, dragging all this crap behind it. This is one of the first ones I captured. Reminds me a lot of a fiery object, and it has this little glowing spot. It reminded me of what Sam describes as Isatum, being the red fiery type planet, the closest one to its star, having a smaller yellow moon. That's what this one reminded me of. The entire sky, our sky, basically started mimicking this thing as it was passing. Everything started turning fiery, with this thing behind it, almost like it was linking up and projecting its atmosphere into ours. You can see it right here. This is its trail as it was coming in. Objects down here. You know, planes trying to cover it up as best they can. They didn't do a very good job that day. And then like right here, usually, you know, you got one light source, you'll have one flare, you know, maybe two. But when you have this many different size, different color flares, that's showing you that there are multiple objects in between the light source and the observer, the lens, the camera. So these are all different objects that are in between the light source, the sun, and my camera lens. This is proving that there are multiple objects up there, different colors, different sizes. That should be pretty obvious to most people with a brain. Another one of the wrinkle-faced Ninja Turtle head freaking objects that probably the most mysterious ones, other than those orbs. You know, the infrared orbs. Those still boggle my mind. But you can see it almost looks like it's got a grin, and it always has these kind of wrinkles. And this one at the sunset was kind of orangish, yellowish. I've seen them in, you know, many different colors. Here it is again. It's pushing through. It's kind of creating a wake, you know, as it's passing through the atmosphere. This was another one, some kind of object that was, you know, behind the atmosphere or in it. I have no idea. We got the green asteroid basically doing its orbit as it's passing under the sun. You know, it's a group of green objects, a bigger one, and with like 4, 5, 6 smaller ones that kind of are being pulled around it. That's why it leaves this gnarly looking ion bleed off trail. It'll have multiple trails going off of each one of the little objects. And then you have the lead object, which is the one with the kind of wrinkles, you know, the 3 lines in the center. They travel together, you know, close together quite a bit, so you'll often see the green with the kind of orangish, tan, yellowish color objects, or, you know, colorations at sunset always kind of be together. You know, there it is again. There's the lead objects up above it. It's the green. It's passing under it. Always has the most gnarly trail on the green one. Here's a different one. You got the green one right here. You see it, multiple trails coming off of it, the multiple objects. Then you got the lead object, the tan, orangish looking one is back here this time. This was a different year, I think. But you know, they'll always kind of be captured close to each other. And again, different time of the year. You got the green with the multiple lines, multiple objects, and then this time the lead object is sitting right above it, you know, as they're swooping past. And of course you always have the 2 leads, which is the smaller elliptical one, and then the bigger round one that are kind of usually off to the left of the sun. You'll see them, you know, cutting off. They'll have like a little check line or trail coming off there, and then basically the straight one. I'll show you many examples of those guys. There's the green again, cutting across close to the horizon. This is one of its close passes. There's another example of the green, you know, leaving its damn weird trail, multiple trails coming off of it. Panorama, green. See the green right here with multiple trails. It's very distinct trails coming off of the green one. This is just an example. You see this little sphere object, you know, passing by in that wake. And a little sphere object sitting right on top of a cloud as it passes, with a nice little lightning strike in front of it. That's a pretty awesome capture. You got an object up here. It's cutting in this way. You can see the bow wake as it's pushing in. And we got 2 spheres right here. Whatever the hell this is up there as it's passing. You know, probably a little cluster group. This is a different camera, but the same picture of the one I showed you just a second ago. The green, the lead. Another picture of this one cutting through, you know, pushing through the atmosphere. There's that fiery object, different times of the year, multiple captures, night, mornings. This one was in the morning. You can see that dang object. This was one of the first ones I captured. There's the red. This is kind of a close-up of it. But it has this one right here, has these two lines, bleed off trails. And it just pushes through the atmosphere, cutting through the sky. Here's the original picture, cell phone captured in the morning. The sun rising on the completely opposite side. So no, that's not the sun. This was facing towards sunset in the morning. There's this fiery one. You can see the objects up front. This is its ion trail, basically being illuminated by the setting sunlight. You can almost clearly make out there's something right here. There's a little black dot craft that are always, always accompanying these things. Another one up there. They'll be all around these damn weird clouds. Here's that object with those kind of stripes. I actually think this one has the cube behind it, with the lead in front, or one of it, the lead object in front of it, and it's got its side orbs up here. Its side orbs grayish, lead object's that orangish golden color. This is its bleed off trail. This is just a weird, object that's cutting through. Almost looks like it's got a gaping mouth. Twin trails, sphere at the front, cutting through. Another one pushing this way, cutting through. You got its little bow wake. This one will be an object here, and there's an object up front. This is the two of them that are the left of the sun always. Same thing, glowing. Cutting this way, pushing in. The objects are actually up here. Cutting in. This is the green, I think, or this is the green. One of these is the green, and one of them's the lead. I think this one may be the lead, and this one's the green this time. But they're usually together. And then here's an example of what I was talking about. The two of them, the bigger, more spherical one in the back, with the smaller elliptical one, kind of is like that, and it usually travels in front, and they're typically always around this spot around sunset, to the left of the sun, leaving these like check kind of trails. That's pretty much how I identify these guys, is these trails. This is like, it's a green one. You can see it right here in the center. Kind of green. Everything's kind of focused around it. Another obvious weird. Cutting across here. This one you actually see debris poking out of its cloud envelope. This is like obsidian shards almost. This one was cutting across the horizon. This one was pretty freaky to actually witness in person, because I could see all this crap. I could see these shards. It had a very ominous feel to it. Cutting across the horizon under an object. Same thing, cutting this way. You can see the envelope surrounding this object that's in here. Cutting down this way. You got the bow wake. And you got the object right here. This little envelope right there. You can see it's basically pushing in this way, making the bow wake, leaving the huge trails. That's a pretty good capture. Yeah, and you got the little black dot crafts and doing their thing, cutting across, leaving its shadow. Cutting across. You got the lead and the green. Green's up front, the lead's right here. You got the cube, or a cube, back here. object right there, a little cluster. Alright, next one. You can see right here, swooping in. You got the little sphere down there, pushing into the cloud. And here, same thing, but going this way. Got the bow wake object. You can see it swooping in, pushing its bow wake. Same thing here, pushing in. Got a little bow wake. There's another one up above it. There's another photo, same thing. Little black dot craft right there with it. A little random cloud. Now this is one of the few that I captured that actually showed an illuminated crescent, visible to our eyes by our sunlight briefly as it, I guess, rotated or something. It only showed up in one photo. This was like a split second I caught this. You can see the ion bleed off coming off of it, showing you it's not the moon. This is one of the other rare ones that I caught of illuminated crescent. This one's much bigger, much closer, coming in this way. You got planet Atu up here with its white moon covered in cloud, and this is one of the objects that orbit under it. I actually caught this one in a few different photos. It's another photo. You can see it. It's even got like that, the heat distortion or the atmospheric distortion. And again, another photo. Way too big to be our moon. Well, you can see this right here is like the bottom part of Atu with its white moon, and then one of the objects under it. It's kind of explaining. You can see right here, Atu. These are all examples of, you know, if you could see the object, what it would look like, where it would be. And again, and then here's this. Still not the full-size photo of this capture. This is zoomed in partially, showing it. See how long that trail is coming off of it. And this is a object coming in. You can see it's kind of like bow wake right here. It's illuminated. It's probably a cluster of a few of them, a few different objects. Again, another example of illuminated objects. You got the red coloration coming from them. You got the blue over here coming in. You got the bow wake. Again, this is a different one. Illuminated object, different color in the sky. Kind of got like that bulge. Could be a UFO, could be a bird. A little panorama. Sunset, giving a good example of how you have all the different objects up there giving off their own distinct colors. You got, you know, pink and orange. You got green over here, blue up here, purple right here, white right here. The white would probably be coming from Atu's white moon, the purple from Atu. These would be probably the different OCGs, object cluster group. An example of the illuminated objects in the atmosphere. I mean, you can clearly see, like up here, you got that object giving off its vivid blue glow, and you got a lighter baby blue over here. You got kind of a purplish right here, and you got the golden from the sun. This one right here is Australia. This was Russia or something like that. These are mine. It's mine. You got purple. There's a Planet Edge coming in. It's got its little bow wake as it's passing by. This was opposite, so this was towards sunrise. The sun is setting on the other side, and this object passed over me. There's a different one, same object, different time of the year, vividly glowing orange. Here you go again. There's another one. You can see right here in the white in this cloud, or that there's this red circle. That would be one of the objects. There's another one right here cutting in from this direction. Probably another little one right there. Probably even another one up there. You can tell where they are by like how they break the clouds. You know, the coloration, the bulges. There's again big red object passing over. It's 2020. I got a good video of that one. Another example of a different one. This could be Isitum, the red planet, being visible through the atmosphere. And again, you got the dark shadow at the bottom, and you can see there's something. And this is a good example of this was a FAA camera that I happened to come across, and it shows a good example of what happens when an object basically pushes into the sun. So this is the lead object pushing in towards the sun, and as it gets in front of the sun, it basically flares out. You know, you can see the big kind of arc it's pushing in, and then when it gets in front of it, the sun or the camera will flare out. Same thing, it's flaring out. See, it just gets giant, floods out the entire camera as it flares out, and the camera tries to compensate. So when you see the sun flared up and you got this big huge white, you know, light in the sky that's way bigger than the sun, that's because there's something either right on its edge or passing in front of it. You know, so you got these things that, I mean, they're almost invisible unless you really, really look. You can see this perfect little sphere. It's got the wrinkles, the lines. You wouldn't even be able to see this sucker. There it is again in a different photo. This is the flare, basically projecting an image with detail of it. And again, there's a different one. See the same kind of object. Plane trying to hide it or trying to point to it. And there's that one object again. I think I already showed that one. This is one of my other good ones. This shows the two leads. You got that elliptical, smaller one up front. It gives off the twin tails. And then you got the big spherical one in the back. It's got the bleed off coming off the top of it. And you can also kind of see it's got protrusions. That's the one that has like the obsidian shards poking out of its cloud envelope. And then I'm pretty sure that the cube is also up here hiding. Here it is again, enhanced, close up. You can see the bottom of it. You can see the spikes, shards coming out of it. This one, you got like that elliptical shape to it, kind of standing upright. That's a killer photo. And then here's the same object, just different times of the year, different times of the day. You can see that it travels in two. You got the smaller elliptical one, the big sphere one in the back. You got the protrusions, elliptical one up front, sphere one in the back. Same thing here, smaller one, bigger one. You got two right there and two right there. You got the elliptical one in front, sphere one in the back, elliptical one in the front, sphere in the back. You can see the back of it. It's got those little shards. Same object, passing many different times of the year. And again, it's kind of a representation of what they look like. This is probably one of the closest passes I've seen them. You see the big one and the elliptical one there. This was actually the opposite direction towards sunrise, so they were in a different orientation. The big one in the front, the little one in the back. You know, clearly small one, big one. cutting in right at sunset. Perfect spheres. You can even see there's another little one right here that's kind of passing this way. They'll be coming in from all different directions. That's why you'll get, you know, Z shapes and, you know, straight lines all over the sky that just don't look natural. That's because there's many different objects going different directions, you know, swooping in like that. You know, same object. You can see it's got the little grooves on the side of it. There it is right here. Little grooves on the side of it. Same thing right there. Same object, different times of the year. There's the nighttime photo coming up right here. You can see got that kind of like bulge impression as it's swooping past. You got one under it going this way. There's the big bulge wrinkling up the atmosphere, creating wakes and turbulence as it passes by. There'll usually be somewhere down here up front. There's another photo of it. This is a high-res photo with my Nikon. So you can almost even see like a little square, like the cube might be with it. Cube's always hiding up there. There you go, there's a nighttime photo, same object. See how it's kind of like, it's almost like putting a pool ball on a stretched out silk sheet, and you get the kind of wrinkles in the sheet. It's the same kind of effect that it does on the atmosphere. And there's a good example of another one basically cutting through. It's cutting through the cloud at the bottom. You can see it right there. Hidden object next to the moon. You see a perfect little sphere right there, giving off that blue illumination. It's the same object, different times of the year, cutting across the horizon, pushing into the clouds. You can see it right there. It's pushing its way in there against the way our atmosphere is flowing. Because they have their orbits, and we have ours, and they kind of just come close every now and then. Another example of that one. There's another example of all the different flares, showing that there's multiple objects in between the sun and us. Example of one of those comet clouds, you know, objects basically pushing through, leaving a little trail, a little close up, so the object just be, you know, somewhere up here. This will be its trails coming off. A big one right here, swooping up. You got this huge impression in our atmosphere. You can even see something like right there. Huge trail right here. If you follow this trail cutting all the way across, and you got that object right there at the very front, leaving multiple little trails, you know, and they're kind of like spiraling around. All that's coming from that object right there. Same thing in this one. This is a different example. Same kind of object, leaving multiple kind of little trails coming off of it. Pretty obvious. different objects, same example. This one actually looks like it's got a little cube or a little square in it, but it's got multiple trails coming off of it, just like the last two. It's cutting across this cloud right here. It's like spiraling, kind of like a helix. This kind of shows what happens when they pass directly overhead, the effects they have. And you can kind of see the little starting point down here at the bottom, and you got the little patchy clouds, and then it splits off into the big trails. And you got the horizontal ripples. This is where the debris fields would be tumbling behind in these little wakes. Again, as another example, same thing. Got the little horizontal wakes rippling off. That's where the debris field would be, with the main object, you know, somewhere down here. Another example, you see it cutting through. You got the deep dark blue. That's probably its debris trail cloud up there, you know, above our atmosphere. You got the object down here, compressing everything, pushing up the little bow wake at the bottom. This would usually be illuminated, you know, the glowing spot right in front of it. And you got those dark hidden luminaries, you know, around the moon. Looks like you got 1, 2, probably behind the moon, of course. But you can see it's actually starting to illuminate the very front of this one. Another example, one of those comet clouds. You got its swooping little trail. You follow it right to the front to where the little objects are. You can even see kind of like a little, almost like a ripple effect right there as it's pushing in a little bow wake. Again, passing over, you know, the explanations that mainstream will give you on something like this is laughable. You know, it's exactly what your eyes tell you it is. It's a friggin' object passing above our atmosphere, and this is the effects that it leaves on our atmosphere. These things have a magnetic effect. You know, it's almost like a superconductor, you know, floating over water. It kind of, you know, creates an effect on the top of the water. You go right here. You got the illuminated glowing part. It's coming in, passing overhead. Another example from somebody else's photo. Probably a cluster group right here, passing. You know, it's got its trails, its compression. There's another one of mine showing the same thing. Another example showing many different examples of the same thing. Now this one was looking, the sun's over here somewhere, and you got this weird rainbow off, which is telling me that there's some kind of object right here, and its atmosphere, whatever atmosphere is basically refracting the light, creating that kind of reverse upside down rainbow with another rainbow halo going this way around the sun. So you got the sun's halo, and then you got this reverse one off to the side because of something up here. Big old planet passing overhead. See how it's dark? It's almost black up here, and then you got the little baby blue down there at the bottom, which is our atmosphere. You got the rainbow, which is caused by the atmosphere, the light refracting through its atmosphere as it passes overhead. This is why you have the upside down rainbow. Again, another example. Deep dark blue up above, lighter blue, and you got the upside down rainbow. You'll have a debris field right here, all the dust particles, which is why you get that upside down rainbow. Objects on webcam to Mexico, basically pushing into the sun, causing it to flare out. Got the flare lines shooting across it. You can clearly see it's pushing in right there. Same thing over here. Again, red object, top of the sun, pushing in. It even causes that that spike flare, basically right in the middle, as it, you know, compresses the light to that focal point, and you can actually see its coloration is red, just like the object. Another example, object pushing into the sun, causing it to flare. We have the other objects that are up there, causing these you know, individual refractions off to the side. And right here, you basically have the sun flaring, and you have an object pushing into it, blocking basically that flaring from being all the way around. So it's actually pressing in between us and the sun, blocking all of that light flaring, and just getting the spikes. Same thing right here. You got the sun flaring. Everything on this side is blocked by an object that's right here. Otherwise, this side would look like that side if there was nothing over there. This is probably Isotone, because you can see there's a little object right here, which is probably its yellow moon, and this is the big bleed off that always bleeds off of its yellow moon. So it has a little kind of like a stripe going down the center. This would be big blue, probably Nibiru or one of those planets. This was actually towards sunrise direction, with the sun rising. It's not even up yet, on the opposite side, and you have these light pillars, or these shooting up basically from, there's not supposed to be anything on the opposite side, so there's a light source, and then you get these light kind of like spikes or pillars that shoot up under the base of the planet or the object. That's what these things, when they randomly pop up opposite of the sun, so they're shining under the bottom side of an object. This is actually Atu's white moon, temporarily captured, visible as it's pushing over. You can even see its effect. It's like boundary, or it's pushing in. It's like almost like its atmosphere, or its magnetic push, or it's just pushing in, compressing the atmosphere and creating this kind of barrier line, and then that's the physical actual object. Hot object hidden in the clear blue sky. There's actually a plane that was up there trying to hide that. And you got Atu and its white moon right next to the sun. This is back in 2015. One of Sam Huffman's photos. This is one of mine. You can see up here this deep vivid blue, and you got this spherical shape. That's because there's an object up there. You can see this right here. This is one of the asteroid objects that's swooping by. Again, you can see how it's a perfect sphere shape. You got the clouds casting shadows on the blue sky. That couldn't happen unless there was an object up there. It got black, deep dark blue. That's because there is an object back there. I showed this one already. This is showing an example of planetary shadowing. So normally the sky would look just like this, kind of light blue, but up there behind the moon there's this big shadow, big dark spot. That's an object that's back there. Again, cut off flaring. You got the sun, you got an object pushing into it, and you got the lights from the sun's focal point as it wraps around the object and focuses, basically out in a pillar or a spike. It's the cut off flaring effect. Same thing, opposite side. You got Isitum, the red planet. You got a red flare spike right there. That was one of my photos. Again, planetary shadowing. Everything should kind of be like that, but you got this deep dark, and if you darken the photo or manipulate it just up and down, you'll see that there's this area stays black. You cannot lighten it up no matter what. It's just there's an object up there. You see you got the grid shape. That's like the gravitational magnetic effect, creating that on the camera. Webcam to Mexico. Live cam. Huge planetary shadowing. He even got the shadow reflecting on the water. Validation that it's a legit photo. Planetary shadowing again, cutting over. Got completely blocking off the sun's flare on this entire side, and you got the shadow line going all the way across the city. So this is basically creating a shadow on this side over here. You got again, there's a big huge object back here. It's kind of got a reddish tint, so that could be Isitum or one of those reddish purplish planets. Again, right here you can see it's cut off right there. This is actually Isitum, this little yellow moon. It's got the bleed off. I'll have to show an example of that later on. And then you got Nibiru behind it, the deep blue water planet. Another example, planetary shadowing, planet over here. You even got the dark shadow being cast on the Earth. This is a live webcam snapshot. It's a legit good photo. This is one of mine. You can see everything's flared out and bright. You got the baby blue, Then right here you got this deep dark black where it should be just blue or dark blue, but it's black. And then you got the baby blue down here. That's telling me that there's something up there. There's another panorama showing the same thing. Objects are up there. Deep, big object up there. Another example, pretty obvious. This is an inverted photo somebody took of these planets hiding behind all the chemtrail lines. You know, you got a little asteroid object right there. You got the perfect sphere right there. I mean, it's undeniable. And the bigger one up above it. Got the reddish color. And, you know, if it wasn't inverted, and you wouldn't even be able to tell. You just think it was, oh, chemtrailed sky. This is the same object passing over almost a year and 2 months apart. Same object passing pretty similar to the same spot. You see the red trail with the object at the front with the bow wake. You got the little ripples it's giving off. There it is again. This is actually a high-res photo of I think the same object passing over. Here we go. Here's a good one. Somebody else took this one, but this is basically shows the outline of the object. It's a striped planet or striped object. It's going over the horizon. All you can kind of see is it almost looks like a cloud, but in the shape of the object. And then my photo right here, you can see the same object hidden inside the cloud as it was passing by. And then it's just kind of showing, you know, the object up here is swooping by, and it'll be up here. That's this little trail. And right here, when you get like clouds stretching off to this way and then clouds stretching off that way, it's because one object or a group of objects is coming across this way and another one's coming across that way, and it's pulling the cloud with it. That's how you get the clouds splitting in two directions. Now this is what I was talking about with Isiton. This is the red planet, the actual photos that somebody took with their telescope showing it, and you can see it's bleed off, all this different bleed off, the stripes down the center that they always see me point out, like down here in this refraction, it's got the stripes down the center. That is caused by the little yellow dot here. It's yellow moon in different phases. It bleeds off all that ion bleed off from the moon to itself, and that's where you get that distinctive stripes or cloud stripes that goes across the center of it. It's always the red planet and then the little yellow moon, just like the ones I captured right here with the little yellow kind of glowing spot. There's a close-up of that one planet. Again, this is Uri. This was captured from the ISS as it passed by briefly. This is back in 2013. Same object. Same object, different. This one down here was taken in Hungary. You can see it looks like an object kind of wrapped in like a cloud envelope. You know, same object right here. It's got that little cloud envelope. Same way right here. Kind of got that weird little cloud envelope stretching around with something in the center. That's that same object. Different locations on the Earth, different times of the year. These things continually pass by, you know, cyclically, just depending on where you are, the time, the direction you're looking. It's all going to look different, basically. This is one I captured from my friend's house one day. I was driving and I saw this thing, and I hurried off the road and pulled into his house so I could get out and take some panoramas. And this is one of the panoramas I got of this object as it was streaking across the sky. You can clearly see the objects right here at the front. So it's like the two objects, and then this is kind of like the balloon effect where I guess like the atmosphere kind of bubbles around it and then, you know, collapses back into a big old sphere. But it's really these guys up here, and then there's the trails. It's a pretty awesome photo. I like this one. Here it is again. I think I got 4 or 5 panoramas of the same thing. And you got this is the same object, different times of the year. You know, it stretches out, so it's a little cloud like that with a little point, and it just grows and stretches out. This one was in the morning, and this one was in the evening. But you can see, hidden inside, there's the illuminated objects, a little cluster group. You know, like right here, see it? Just a little break in the cloud. You got this perfect little illuminated sphere. Perfect spheres. So little cluster groups streaking across the sky. Nice little sphere impression. This one was pretty awesome. This one was, it was weird. I actually tracked this one all day with my security camera, following it, zooming in on it, watching it. It just kind of, it almost looks like it's crawling, like it's some kind of creature kind of slowly crawling across the surface of something. It's orbiting around a planet, and it's got the ion bleed off, basically bleeding off between the two. And this is the two, the big round one and the elliptical one up front, each giving off their bow wake. And it just slowly would creep across the sky, you know, almost like a little monster. It's strange. You really have to watch your sky to personally see something for yourself, see how strange it is. There's an object shooting down, got this nice little bow wake, a couple little objects. You know, you can see the trails going down to them right there. This is that one. Another example of these different objects stretching out. A little cluster group right there at the front. There's actually that Dobbs object thing was actually somewhere back here. Another little invisible object right there. There's the one from Hungary. This one busting through a cloud. You can kind of see, kind of like the highlight, the outline of the invisible sphere. And this little bow wake, and it busts out of the cloud. And the perfect little sphere. Same one I showed. Same one I showed. This is that creepy one with the obsidian shards, the debris. You can see all these little black spikes sticking out of it, and all this little black debris floating around it. That's all like obsidian shard type sharp jagged rocks that poke out of this thing. Yeah, this one was captured in the morning behind my house before the sun even rose. Here we go, good example. This one pathway pushing in, it's got this illuminated bow wake right there, and there's the object, and there's a little black dot craft thing that's following it. More of those objects. I mean, these could be UFO craft. You know, I think they're probably, you know, asteroid type objects, but they very well could be hidden cloak craft up there. And they do also give off ion blue. Usually though, when you see like a UFO that looks like a cloud, it'll have like a pillar where it's sucking up cloud in its torus field that it creates around it. It's got the, you know, kind of like the South Pole and the North Pole, and it kind of creates like a funnel where it sucks in kind of like ions or whatever through the center of it. And that's how you can identify those cloaked disc-shaped craft. Alright, so I had to find this real quick so I could give you an example, show you. So this is what I was talking about, how it's basically, this is the cloaked UFO, the disc. You can see right here, it's top. It's got the nice little disc, but see how it's basically got this trail that's sucking up right through the center. So that's how you can kind of see right there. You can see the cloaked disc, and then you can see it's kind of like it's got this flow of ions, or you know, whatever, that's flowing right to the center of it. That's how it's, I guess it's propulsion, the torus field it creates around itself, and it just kind of like creates this flow of energy. Here's another close-up. You can see it's clearly a disc. Typical, you know, but it's got sucking up right through the center of it as it slowly floated by. And I don't even know what the hell's up here above it, but there's a lot of weird stuff when this thing floated by that day. Just thought I'd show that one. Here's a wrinkle face guy down here in the cloud. He looks nice and happy. Another object right here. It's kind of hidden in the cloud. Another one. This thing right here. It's kind of, this thing was like spiraling into a cone. And there's hidden shit all inside this cloud. Big Mammatus cloud behind it. That was back in 2019. This is the same object, different captures. Hey, alright, that was that.